EU foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels to decide whether or not to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, the bloc is split, making it complicated for it to take a united position and use its influence. Over the weekend, French President Emmanuel Macron said Paris was in favor of a ceasefire in Gaza. For more on this story, we can bring in Kelly Petillo, Program Manager for Middle East and North Africa at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Good to have you with us here on France 24. This conflict now has been going on for over a month. Over a month later, we still don't have the EU's 27 members singing from the same song sheet. Why is that?
There are very strong historical ties with Israel, and European involvement in Palestine is very deep-rooted in terms of supporting from the humanitarian perspective, of course, in terms of support to UNRWA, but also at the same time support to the Palestinian Authority. So both for historical reasons and due to Europe's current foreign policy towards Israel and Palestine, there are deep fractions and deep worries and concerns over these policies that have been been the contours of European policy towards this conflict. I would say before October 7th, the EU was deeply divided as to what to do on the situation. There was a years-long occupation in place, deep violence in the West Bank, increase of settlement activity, etc., and the siege in Gaza was continuing. So October 7th really marked this moment of already existing divisions, historical grievances, and what we're seeing now is just reflections of those. There is a lot of unresolved issues, and there was no political will to resolve them even before October 7th.
But Kelly, just last week on Thursday, we had the French President Emmanuel Macron, who organized that Gaza Aid Conference. Before that aid conference, he was in favor of humanitarian pauses. Then 2 days later, after listening to what everyone in that room had to say, especially the people working on the ground to improve the situation in Gaza, he called for a ceasefire. So people's positions can evolve, can't they?
They can absolutely evolve. And I think Macron's position and the shift that we've seen, it really reflects, as you said, the wider voice that we see beyond Europe, which is the Palestinian issue cannot be compartmentalized anymore to prioritize regional issues, regional security, and just wider economic agreements, also at the G20 level, etc. So we need to really not just look at the Middle East as a vehicle for wider economic agreements or as just to look at oil-producing countries, but we need to address the root causes of what causes instability in the Middle East. And I think Macron, to a certain extent, wanted to sort of address this dilemma that Europeans are facing. But at the same time, there has been no inner examining of each different member state's positions, because these positions are deep-rooted in historical events that underpinned the formation of Europe itself and the formation of the world order.
I want to ask about those deep-rooted, positions, because Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, is German, and her position didn't change. She was sitting next to Emmanuel Macron at that Gaza Aid Summit on Thursday, and her position hasn't changed. And this is somebody who, after the war in Ukraine broke out, Russia's invasion broke out, kept speaking about, European values and morals, and clearly that doesn't apply here.
Absolutely. I think Europe is losing deeply from these events and this war, and von der Leyen does not seem to be willing to address the plight of the Palestinians in the same way that she acknowledges the right of Israel to defend itself. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is in a completely different page. And I think von der Leyen standing next to Macron really goes to show that there is a coalition within the European Union and the member states that really refuses to acknowledge that. And the division doesn't only underpin the EU and the member states. Von der Leyen does not speak for example, High Representative Josep Borrell, which has been his statements have been more strongly geared towards acknowledging the plight of Palestinians, the need for a least humanitarian pause, And these divisions remain. And I think Ursula von der Leyen has shown a deep inflexibility in terms of listening to the voice of the rest of the world. And she has gained a lot of credibility from her response to the war in Ukraine. And I think this has really put her on let's say, a pedestal in terms of really having that legitimacy within the EU. So I think this has harmed, in this case, unfortunately, the response that the EU has had towards this conflict, because it's a very different conflict than Ukraine, and those dynamics needed to be addressed.
And it clearly places von der Leyen's second term as EU Commission President in doubt. Kelly, we're going to have to leave it there. Kelly Petillo joining us there.